right, well, good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here. First, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm speaking to you today from the traditional territory of the signatories of Treaty 7. I also would like to acknowledge the Métis people of Alberta, who, of course, have a deep connection to this land. I'm pleased to join you today to announce an important step forward to enhance public safety in southern Alberta. Alberta's government knows crime continues to be a significant challenge for many communities, and we are doing everything that we can to make a difference. Sometimes our major downtown urban centers get a lot of attention, but our rural and mid-sized communities are also seeing concerning trends. That's why today we're taking action on providing law enforcement agencies the necessary tools to combat criminal activity. This includes using all means at our disposal to fight crime, which is why the Safer Communities and Neighborhoods unit of the Alberta Sheriffs is such a valuable asset. The SCAN unit, as it is also known, uses legal sanctions and court orders to tackle crime by holding owners accountable for illegal activity taking place on their property. Officer presence matters, and the SCAN unit's work deals with the problem properties, placing legal conditions on the owners aimed at making sure the criminals don't return and preventing new ones from moving in. The SCAN unit has already proven to be a valuable tool to address crime in southern Alberta. Between 2019 and 2023, the SCAN unit in Calgary investigated 363 properties in Lethbridge, which is about 20% of its caseload during that period. In addition, there has been a significant increase in complaints from Medicine Hat and other southern Alberta communities, emphasizing the need for increased law enforcement efforts in the region. The demand for SCAN's intervention in southern Alberta is evident. So today, I am pleased to announce a new team of 6 SCAN investigators from the Alberta Sheriffs will be based right here in Lethbridge. This is a new regional team that will cover an area roughly bounded by Vulcan to the north, Crow's Nest Pass to the west, and the U.S. border to the south, and the provincial boundary with Saskatchewan to the east. This team is dedicated to supporting the local communities, is a tool in the toolbox to help assist with law enforcement. Over the past few months, I have spoken about our province's focus on border patrol. We will not allow drug cartels and organized criminals to import illegal drugs and guns and human trafficking, which is occurring and coming across the border. Having the SCAN team's jurisdiction go up to 2 borders will help us combat this. Additionally, basing SCAN investigators in Lethbridge eliminates the lengthy travel time from Calgary, enabling the team to respond promptly to complaints from residents in southern Alberta. When someone calls 911 for help, I expect someone in uniform to show up to answer that call for assistance. This announcement means faster responses and resolutions, ensuring concerns are addressed in a timely manner and providing the support that communities deserve. Today's announcement is in line with our government's plan, as announced in Budget 2023, to double the size of the SCAN unit and establish new regional teams in strategic hubs. Lethbridge is the first of these planned regional offices, and we're committed to expanding it further. Since its inception in 2008, Alberta's SCAN unit has investigated more than 8,000 properties and issued about 100 community safety orders, exemplifying its steadfast commitment to ensuring community safety. In closing, I want to emphasize that this initiative is a testament to our government's dedication to the safety and well-being of Alberta communities, as well as the important collaboration between our local partners within the municipal government and the police services. Together, we will do whatever it takes to keep Albertans safe. It reflects a value we place on partnerships with law enforcement, the importance of addressing the concerns of residents, and our commitment to efficient and effective law enforcement. I want to express my gratitude to all the dedicated people who have worked tirelessly to make this new SCAN regional team a reality. Together, we're making communities and neighborhoods safer. And I'd like to now ask the Minister of Affordability and Utilities, MLA for the region, Minister Nathan Neudorf, to provide his remarks.
Thanks, Minister. Great Great to have you down. Fantastic and exciting announcement. It is a long drive from Lethbridge to Calgary. Are the sheriffs going to be patrolling that highway? It's another question. I'm asking for a friend. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I am pleased to join my fellow Cabinet Minister Mike Ellis, City of Lethbridge Mayor Blaine Higgin, Alberta Sheriff's Deputy Chief Greg Medley, and Lethbridge Police Service Deputy Chief Gerald Grobmeyer for this announcement. Lethbridge in southern Alberta is truly one of the great parts of this country in which to live, and I'm proud to represent the people here and have raised my family in this city. But we are not immune to the major crime issues that have plagued centres all across Canada. And with that, it is our government's commitment to make public safety a major plank in our platform on this recent election. And this announcement shows that we are following through on this promise right here in Lethbridge. Installing a scan unit in Lethbridge represents a major step towards combating crime in this area. It will shrink the response time for these specially trained officers for incidents and calls, not just in Lethbridge, but all of southern Alberta. This is not just about addressing symptoms, but digging out the root causes of crime in our region. The numbers are startling for Lethbridge, with 363 complaints between 2019 and September 30th, 2023. This is about 20% of the Calgary unit's caseload, which is an oversized proportion of what the officers here in Lethbridge would have to handle. So it is critical that these issues continue to be dealt with. Our Lethbridge Police Service does terrific work, and it is this province's government's job to help by putting more boots on the ground, assisting in investigations, and ensuring the safety of our people however we can, and this is what we are doing. We also know that this is just one part of making our community safer. The provincial government has also stepped up efforts in addiction recovery, which will further contribute to making our streets safer. Albertans should feel safe in their own communities, and today's announcement will aid in that pursuit. And now I'd like to hand the mic over to Greg Medley, the Deputy Chief of our Alberta Sheriffs.
Good morning. Thank you, Minister Neudorf. And thanks to everyone for attending today. It is an exciting day for the Alberta Sheriffs and the proud scan investigators who work diligently and professionally every day to help keep Albertans safe. As Minister Ellis mentioned, the scan unit has done a lot of work in and around Lethbridge area in recent years, with 363 investigations in the city between 2019 to present. 9 of those cases have resulted in community safety orders, where scan investigators from Calgary obtained legal authorization to close properties for a specific period of time. Those are the cases that typically make the news. The ones you hear about when investigators and crews arrive to board up houses and fence off the properties at the end of the investigation. Those successful outcomes are the result of investigations that can be complex and time-consuming. People occasionally comment about the length of time scan investigations can take, so it's worth mentioning why. Most of the complaints investigated by scan are resolved informally, the vast majority, by working with owners to put an end to the illegal activity on their properties that is causing disruption in the community and neighborhoods. More extreme cases that are not resolved by informal means like warning letters require more serious action, like those 9 cases here in Lethbridge that resulted in community safety orders. Taking legal action against someone's property and imposing conditions on their use and occupancy is serious business, and doing so, quite rightly, requires the Alberta Sheriffs to gather sufficient evidence to convince a court that it is absolutely necessary. Gathering evidence to substantiate drug activities or property takes time. That's simply the nature of these type of investigations. Despite the added challenges of travel time between Calgary and the communities in southern Alberta, the scan unit has achieved some very good results in the region. One reason for that success is the strong relationship our investigators have developed with local police, like our fantastic partners here with Lethbridge Police Service. Evidence gathered by local police can play an important role in scan investigations. Police, in turn, can often use evidence gathered by scan investigators to bolster their criminal investigations and lay criminal charges. The scan unit's work with police has been, in many cases, an effective combination for putting a stop to criminal activity that has plagued some neighborhoods for long periods of time. With the addition of 6 investigators here in southern Alberta, we are looking forward to strengthening our partnerships with the police in Lethbridge, Medicine Hat, Taber, and in the communities policed by the RCMP. Being physically located in southern Alberta will help investigators deepen their knowledge of local issues, improve our connection with the communities we serve. Our relationship with the community is such an important part of the work we do. While scan investigations provide the community with a valuable tool for combating illegal activity, it is equally true that the community is a vital resource for the scan unit. Citizens are our eyes and ears. The starting point for scan investigations is generally a complaint from the member of the public. Being actually located in the community is an exciting opportunity to build on the success we've had in Southern Alberta. Our investigators based here in Lethbridge started the week of November 6th, and I know in speaking with them, they're looking forward to making a positive difference in the communities around the region. For anyone who wants to learn more about the scan unit and the work it does, or if you have concerns about illegal or problem properties in your community, you can find more information and file a complaint online by visiting alberta.ca/report suspicious property with a hyphen between report suspicious and property, or call 1-866-960-7226. Thank you for your time. I'd like to invite Mayor Higgin to provide some remarks.
Okay, and thank you for having me be here today. I'm joined by my colleagues, Acting Mayor Middleton Hope, Councillor Palladino, and Councillor Schmidt-Rempel. Thank you very much for being here. This announcement is truly exciting. When I ran for mayor, I and many others said the community safety was our #1 priority. Today's announcement is a gigantic step forward to follow up on that. SCAN, as we hear so often, is safer communities and neighborhoods, and that's what we're working towards. Having a scan unit dedicated to Southern Alberta will be absolutely a game changer. Quicker response times, much higher investigative intelligence, and make no mistake, drug houses and drug dealers are not welcome in Lethbridge. SCAN holds owners accountable for activity taking place on their property and supports landlords by removing problem tenants. SCAN frees up valuable police resources, allowing our LPS to focus on the people involved. Together, they are a powerful team. Most importantly, SCAN empowers citizens to make their community a safer place to live in. This is a complaint-driven process, and your identity will not be disclosed. This is your chance to speak up and be heard without fear. Let me be clear. Together, with the support of the Lethbridge Police Service, we will not tolerate lawlessness in our community. Our city needs to be a safe place for all. In closing, Minister Ellis and I have been discussing the need and the possibility of a scan for quite a while. He made me a promise to follow through on implementing the program here. I want to thank him for his perseverance and persistence in making this a reality. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Minister Ellis and Deputy Chief Medley, for this extremely welcome and necessary addition to enhance public safety in our city and throughout Southern Alberta. Our officers have a very strong relationship with SCAN, and we are looking forward to increased opportunities for further partnership and collaboration as we work together to disrupt criminal activity and shutter problem properties and ensure our neighborhoods are safe. Over the past few years, the Calgary-based SCAN team has had a significant impact on addressing crime and legal activities in the city of Lethbridge and other communities throughout the region. We appreciate all they have done and are very confident the presence of a Lethbridge-based team will continue to build on that momentum. When criminals take over a property in a residential neighborhood, there's an extremely detrimental effect. We have heard from good law-abiding citizens who live next door, and in a word, it's hell. No one should be confronted by criminal activities right on their doorstep, and no one should be afraid in their own homes. The sanctions and court orders used by SCAN to directly hold property owners accountable, stop illegal activity, remove criminals, and prevent new ones from moving in is critical to community safety and security. Increased SCAN intervention will greatly enhance neighborhood safety in Lethbridge and other communities across Southern Alberta. On behalf of LPS, we want to extend our appreciation to the Alberta government for providing these invaluable investigators to help break the cycle of crime and take back our neighborhoods. The message is clear. There's a new neighbor in town. Scan has moved in, and it's time for those engaged in criminal activity to stop. We encourage anyone who needs assistance with problem property to contact us. We will work with community members and in partnership with SCAN to ensure appropriate enforcement actions are taken.
This brings us to the question and answer portion of our announcement. We do have some media on the floor and on the lines. I just asked media on the floor and on the line that you ask one question with a follow-up question, and if we could keep it focused on the SCAN announcement. So we'll head to the floor first. Are there any questions? It's just a mic to your left. There we go.
Yeah. Micah Quinton from Global Lethbridge. Question for Minister Ellis. Maybe just talk a little bit more about costs for this specific unit coming to Lethbridge and Region 2.
Well, we set aside money on a budget 2023. Obviously, public safety was a significant issue, not just before the election, but during the election and, of course, after the election. And so we made sure the necessary funds were in place. I don't have this specific number for you, but I'm sure we can get that for you. But, we talked about doubling the size of our SCAN teams. We talked about hubs. This is going to be the first hub, which is in the Lethbridge area. I know that we're looking at other jurisdictions all throughout Alberta. Just off the top of my head, Red Deer seems to be an area of that I think worth looking at, and of course some areas in northern Alberta as well. I mean, it goes back to response times, right? Sure, it's nice having officers deployed from Calgary and Edmonton, but do they get there quick enough? The answer is no, right? So making sure that we have consistent service throughout the province of Alberta, that's what we're trying to do from a public safety perspective.
Just a follow-up to, you mentioned Calgary and Edmonton. There has been obviously a rise in violent crime there too. Is the province actively addressing this, and what's being done to curb this crime too?
Yeah, thanks very much for the question, but thanks for also recognizing that. I mean, as I already mentioned, public safety is a significant issue prior to the election, during the election, of course, even after the election. Look, I have not... I've been very vocal about this. All of us as provinces are very much united on this issue, where it comes back to Bill C-75, where it made it virtually impossible to keep people in what is known as pretrial custody. So that's one component of it. The paradigm shift that we're doing here in Alberta, right, where the police are not an arm of the state, but instead an extension and a reflection of the community that they serve. I mean, the Safer Communities and Neighborhoods unit is a perfect example of that. It's about going in, understanding that there is a problem property recognized by community members, and I know this because I used to be a community liaison officer when I was in the Calgary Police Service, one of the many hats that I wore, and having the ability for the Lethbridge Police Service to call on the Sheriff's Department to say, hey, this is a problem that we have and we need some extra attention on it, that is going to have a significant ripple effect throughout the community, right? So that means whether drugs are being funneled through there, whether stolen property is being funneled through there, whether illegal guns are being funneled through there. These are some of the things that we're talking about here. But in regards to, Calgary, look, it's deeply concerning for me. I live in Calgary. We're all from Alberta. We're all Canadians. And to see this rise in violent crime, let me be clear here. We're doing what we can to tackle organized crime. There's an enormous investment that we've made with Alert. There's enormous investment we've made to support our sheriffs, to augment and support both our RCMP friends as well as the Edmonton Police Service. I certainly wish that the Calgary Police Service would ask us again for some more assistance. We're happy to provide them assistance because officer presence matters. People need to feel safe in their communities. And there also has to be a level of accountability. You heard me talk about Bill C-75. I hate to say this, but people who are offenders need to understand that there are consequences for their actions. And right now, when you're seeing the rise in violent crime that we're seeing right now, where in broad daylight, there's shootings going on in not just in parking lots, but in community where there's children and where there's families. I mean, why are they doing that? reality is because they feel that there's no consequences. So as I have said to all of these law enforcement officers, do your job. When somebody commits a crime, I expect you to arrest them. If the system lets that person out and they commit another crime, I expect you to arrest them again. So I ask the prosecutors to do their job as well, and you let myself and my colleagues and the Premier worry about the federal government to see if we can get some harsher laws on the table here.
Do we have any more questions from the floor? Yeah, you can go ahead.
Hi, Quinn Keenan, CTV News. Just asking specifically about why a scan unit and not maybe another kind of a law enforcement unit. What made the scan unit the best option here for Lethbridge and the Lethbridge region?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. I mean, I know one of the conversations the mayor and I were having were just about officer presence, right? So, look, I mean, I'm sure the deputy chief and his colleagues are doing their best to hire as many sheriffs as possible. I can tell you that the demand is kind of outweighing our ability to even do the hiring, quite frankly. We have many mid-sized communities, small communities asking for a sheriff's presence all throughout Alberta. Again, this is why we're augmenting and supporting our RCMP, but we're doing what we can. In regards to the scan team, again, it goes back to my answer earlier. When I was a community liaison officer and you would get multiple complaints about a specific residence, it's very time consuming. It's not as simple as one constable or a couple constables working on it for a day or two. These are lengthy investigations with many, court applications, warrants, whatever the case may be, to determine what impact that residence is having on the community from from drugs and guns and sometimes human trafficking to whatever the illegal activity is going on. So when you focus in on shutting down one of those types of residents, boy, the ripple effect on the community is exponential in a positive way.
Yeah, and just to follow up, seems like today's announcement is focused primarily on southwestern Alberta. Is there any plans in the future for a similar unit or just any sort of law enforcement team coming to southeastern Alberta?
So this particular unit is going all the way to the I think the Saskatchewan border. So the answer is maybe. These guys are going to go and they're going to assess the situation and figure out what the need is. And certainly, as the Premier and I have said on multiple occasions, we're going to do whatever it takes to keep Albertans safe. If the sheriffs come back to me and there is a need for a specific team in southeastern Alberta, then certainly we would be open to that conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll take one more question from the floor, and then we'll head to the phones.
Osei Reta with CBC Lethbridge. My question is actually for Officer Grobmeier. I'm curious if you could speak to how the presence of these 6 scan officers is going to free up LPS officers and what that actually allows you to do as a police force with them taking off some of that load.
Absolutely. Thank you. With SCAN being here, it's a definite force multiplier for us. There are these types of investigations where we just do not have the resources for. And as the minister stated, they are lengthy investigations. In order to shut down a house, that takes those probably hundreds of hours of person hours to do that, which we simply don't have the resources for. And some of that is on the civil side, which is not our expertise as we deal with criminal matters. So although we can deal with the drug house as a criminal investigation, because obviously any criminal activity, the police certainly can and do deal with it, but we don't have the authority and the power to actually close that house down or deal with the property owners to ensure that criminal activity stops there. And that's where SCAN has the expertise that we don't. So by them taking over some of those houses from us and allowing our investigators then to move on to different matters and perhaps dealing with the more mid to higher level drug dealers, we can start working on trying to prevent the drugs from actually coming into Lethbridge as opposed to dealing with them once they're already in Lethbridge. That then keeps trickling down throughout the organization and allows our frontline police officers to spend more time having that officer presence that the minister talked about and what we hear about so often in Lethbridge. is ultimately people want to see police officers on the street, and is what we were trying to provide them. So this again adds those resources to us to allow us to be more present in the community. At the end of the day, our citizens don't care who does the enforcement, they just want something done. So whether that's scan, whether that's LPS, whether that's alert, RCMP, bylaws, it's irrelevant. Our citizens just want something done. So this is going to help us do that.
Okay, that's it for the questions to the floor. We'll head to the phones now. Can you put through the first caller? I'd like to remind you that it's one question, one follow-up. Thank you.
Naz Bender, CTV.
Hi, this is a question for Minister Ellis. I'm just wondering what your reaction was when you heard about the killing of known gangster Harpopo and the intentional killing of his 11-year-old son.
Well, you know, first of all, killing of any child is horrific. It's outrageous. It's unacceptable. You know, I have full faith in the Edmonton Police Service to conduct their investigation to find out whoever is you know, responsible for this, and that they be held accountable. But it goes back to what I was mentioning earlier. I mean, the level of gang violence that is going on throughout, not just in Alberta, but quite frankly throughout Canada, is intolerable, not just for Albertans, but quite frankly for Canadians. And something needs to be done about this. I mean, quite frankly, when I was at the federal, provincial, territorial meeting, the question was asked, you know, what can they do to help? Well, first of all, at the very minimum, get C-48 passed, but that certainly hasn't happened at this particular time. But the second thing is help us fund our battle against organized crime. That is something the federal government can do to help with this with these rising violent crimes that are occurring right throughout this province.
And as a follow-up, these organized crime groups involved in this type of violence, it seems they're interprovincial. Are you working with other provinces, and how so?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, I mean, all the police services with me right here, I mean, they're a part of the Alberta Law Enforcement Response Team. Our alert team, which we have invested an enormous amount of money, but I would say in addition, I think we did about approximately $50 million extra, but it was to combat organized crime. You're seeing that. I mean, there was I think a bust up in Red Deer, I think it was, where $2 million guns and drugs were taken off the streets. So yeah, I mean, and the Alberta Law Enforcement Response Team are extremely well connected to law enforcement, not just in British Columbia, right throughout Canada, and quite frankly, right throughout the United States. You know, whether it be the DEA or the Secret Service, or you know, really any agency within the United States, and then local states, especially the ones that are right below us in Montana and as such. The Alberta Law Enforcement Response Team is constantly working with neighboring law enforcement.
Just ask the operator to put through the next caller.
Jonathan Bradley, Western Standard.
Hello, Minister Ellis. Thank you for taking my question. So my first question for you is, there was a shooting at Marlborough Park a few days ago in Calgary involving an 18-year-old and a 14-year-old who perpetrated it. What do you think?
I'm sorry, you cut out there. Could you repeat the question?
Okay. So, yeah. So there was a shooting in the Marlborough area of Calgary a few days ago where the perpetrators were a 14-year-old and an 18-year-old. What do you think about that?
It's a pretty broad question. Well, first of all, the fact that there was a shooting certainly is unacceptable. The fact that we have you know, young people, 14 and 18-year-olds, you know, that is you know, I think that should be concerning to us as quite frankly, as Albertans, as a society, as Canadians. You know, why did this happen? Your answer is quite frankly as good as mine. I will say this, because as many of you know, we're part of the Calgary Police Service for a number of years. Part of the paradigm shift that we're doing, which is that we are not an arm of the state, that we are indeed an extension or reflection of the community that we serve, is to make sure that we are, in the community, a part of the community, that people need to know if they need help, that the police are there to help, to respond. So I can tell you the Calgary Police Service, I don't believe they've changed this, but they have community liaison officers with every diverse group that is even conceivable, to make sure that community members understand that the police, not just in Calgary, but all throughout Alberta, because I know I've had conversations with the Edmonton Police Service and certainly those in the Lethbridge and RCMP, is again that paradigm shift, so that everybody understands that the police are there to help, not to do anything. So, in regards to the investigation itself, I mean, it's actually horrific that there was a shooting. There's horrific that there's 2 young people involved. This is the sort of stuff that is unacceptable in our province. And I just know that we're going to continue to do whatever it takes to keep all Albertans safe.
And my second question is, with the expansion of the scan units, obviously it's going to be taking it's going to be taking on different forms of crime than some of the other policing units in Alberta. Where do you stand right now on implementing a provincial police force?
Well, that hasn't changed. No decision has been made on that. We are continuing to work with all municipalities. There is a wide array of opinions on this. Again, everything from status quo to regional police service to municipal police services to the provincial police service. And so this is why we have encouraged any municipality, any community to take one of the police transition grants that we have made available to all communities, where an independent study can be done to find out what is the service that is going to best serve their community. If it comes back and it says status quo, then that's fine. If it comes back and says something else, then we are happy to work with any community to do what is ever in their best interest for their community.
That's all the time we have for today. I'd like to thank you all for coming. Thank you.
Good job. Good job.